I'm Eric Barden.
I'm Amy Barden.
Welcome to another episode of Bombardin'. And who are we meeting with today?
Today
Ames?
we're talking to Jim Chambers. I can't keep saying my favorite because I say that about every guest, but Jim works at WELD with Patrick Arney. He and I connected probably 18 months ago. And what was really memorable about that conversation is we started talking about parenting. And I don't know a lot about his personal story or his parenting journey, but he shared that he had designed parenting courses specifically for folks who are incarcerated. And we know that, I don't know if it's a majority, I think it is, of folks who are in prison have a child or children. And again, most, 97%, are going to return to community and hopefully have connection with that person, with that child or young adult. And so I just thought it was such a cool thing that he was focused on.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real life thing, right? I mean, like you have folks that are parents going to prison. That seems like something that should be prioritized and given some thought to. How do we reduce the negative impact of a parent going to prison on the next generation? Yeah,
and I mean, it's fair to assume that if somebody's in prison, perhaps they don't have the ideal childhood story themselves.
They're not likely to have had the best parenting themselves, and therefore don't know how to be the best parent for their kid, and obviously aggravated by the fact that they're incarcerated. So,
there's certainly exceptions, but I think it's there's a principle on the therapeutic side. It's reparenting, and the idea is basically for me to be a good mom, we've got to address whatever either the gaps in my understanding are, or address whatever the poor patterns are. Right. So, again, if I was hit every time I did something wrong, then I'm going to think that is the corrective action that you take.
Is that what you're doing to me on a weekly basis? Are you reparenting me?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly.
My mom and dad left a couple of gaps.
A couple of gaps,
You're just fixing them. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
But just stop your little joke there. It is really important for people, especially sometimes you're years in that system. So there's ample amount of time to study it, to understand it, and to start to practice differently, even when it's through limited visitation with your kids, to change the pattern.
I mean, obviously, I'm joking, but obviously this is really, really important to address. And so he's got a great perspective on that. We look forward to hearing about that. Mm-hmm. And he also is a major player at WELD, a program that has great success helping folks exiting jail and prison and
homelessness
and changing course in life. And so we all are for that. Everybody's for people, getting back on track and getting their lives squared away. And WELD is providing a structure for folks to do that. So it'll be fun to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Prepare to be bombarded. So welcome, Jim. Thanks for coming. We really appreciate you being here. Maybe you could just start out and tell us a little bit. Where do you work? What work are you up to now?
Yeah. How can we know where you work?
What does this shirt mean? Yes,
I live this, by the way.
Okay.
So I work for WELD. I'm the Recruitment Retention Manager for WELD. We are a reentry organization that supports about 130 people in clean and sober housing, and currently we have 180 enrolled folks that we're serving through clinical case management, WELD Month, and other second chance employment and things like that. So
recruitment and retention, what does that mean for you?
So for me, I go inside our prisons and meet with folks that are returning home. I also meet with all the community corrections folks and work with local jails, drug treatment centers, for all that stuff. So I'm basically the face of the org in the community. I answer what we call is our phone tree. When people call in to register for Mudroom, I'm the person they talk to.
What's Mudroom?
Mudroom is our orientation. So that's the orientation when people come in. We do a drug screen and get to know folks and do an assessment and then see what needs we can meet for them.
Okay, so I don't think I understood this. We've, talked to Patrick Arney on this and then just personally a lot. Do you have a contract with corrections where they signal for you this person's exiting in 30 days and?
No, it's just word of mouth a lot of times. We're on an active list inside the Department of Corrections for housing.
Okay.
And then the work I do is spread the word about what WELD does. I go to resource fairs and meet with folks. Yesterday I was in Shelton, meeting with all the cultural committees. There was three people from every cultural committee that was there talking about reentry and all that stuff. I'm also appointed by the governor on the statewide reentry council.
Yeah.
I got appointed last month. And
Congratulations.
I'm also appointed by the governor for the Office of Public Defense.
Yeah, that's a big
on
deal.
the advisory board.
Yeah, congratulations. So who's a good fit? I mean, when you're talking to folks in prisons, you're trying to find people who would be successful, right?
Well, I want people that need the most work, to be honest with you. People that are going to be successful already have a path.
Yeah. Like, dude, you don't want the most successful people just to up the
Well, I mean, I think
rate.
that our goal is to reduce harm in our community is our main goal. I think we want to be considered a public safety tool.
Yeah.
Here at WELD, because we do prevent crimes and future harm by providing people with services they need when they return back to our community.
Yeah. I don't think I know were you a WELD member? Like,
No.
how did you get involved?
So I was released in 2021 during COVID on clemency from the governor. And
Why clemency?
Because I had a 40-year sentence for manufacturing methamphetamines, weapons, and a vehicle accident I was involved in.
Yeah. So was there revised policy?
There was some revised policy, but also due to my extraordinary rehabilitation in prison by teaching parenting classes, working in reentry for folks, helping people return back to the community, I remained infraction-free for my entire prison sentence, and that was one of the things that the clemency board mentioned when I went up before the board.
Yeah, 40 years is a long time.
Very long. And that was a plea bargain, by the way.
No kidding.
Wow.
So what year were you sentenced?
2000.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're not still there.
Well,
then.
and I had a very unique experience where I won an appeal pro se. I went to Supreme Court and won and got resentenced in 2010. I went to Cedar Creek work camp. I was released on the FOSA program, which is a family sentencing alternative.
I'm smiling because of all the people I can imagine being successful pro se, you would be in the top of the list.
I filed pro se. I won this appeal. The judge dismissed an entire 20-year sentence.
Yeah.
And I went back to prison. And they sent me to work camp.
Yeah.
And then I applied for FOSA, which is the family it's CPA. It's actually community parenting alternative. Because I had one child left that was under 18 that I could prove that I'd be a viable parent to help him be successful.
Yeah.
So I was approved for that program. I was released to the streets for 72 hours.
Yeah.
I received a call from my CCO, Judy McCullough, who I was at Lakewood Mall. She said, I need you to come turn yourself in. Your appeal just got overturned. And we just added 20 years back on your sentence.
Oh, man.
So I'm standing at the Lakewood Mall. I'm kind of at this weird thing where I'm like, all these people who supported me, I'm thinking, if I run, I'm going to destroy everything that people think about me. And so I called my friend and said, hey, I need you to take me and turn myself in. And I went and turned myself in within 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the Father's Day. It was the day before Father's Day. I was going to get to spend that weekend with my son. He was 17 years old. And I've been incarcerated since he was 3, excuse me.
Since he was 3. Oh, man. So what happened then after you turned yourself back in?
They drove me to Shelton.
Yeah.
Receiving. I sat there for a few weeks. They took me back to a main institution where I jumped back into my programming and started learning everything I could about the legislature and doing everything I could just to better myself,
Yeah.
It didn't throw me off my track of being who I was in prison, let's put it that way.
Yeah. So what changed? I mean, when you got that initial 40-year sentence, were you already wanting to change your life? Were you already?
I was struggling with addiction to methamphetamines and a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
And just couldn't control myself.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I was just completely out of control. And, I went to jail for that. And then I got out on bail and was involved in a hit and run accident while on bail and took someone's life. And so they gave me 60 months for the vehicle accident and 40 years for the drugs, all ran concurrent like that. But
Yeah. So do you feel, I always ask people, do you feel like there could have been some diversion path, right? It sounds like addiction was the primary issue for you, that you have this, sounds like an addictive disposition if it's gambling and drugs. And so do you feel like there could have been some other kind of intervention, or do you feel like I had to be arrested, I had to spend time in prison in order to really change?
Well, there was a certain point in doing my time where I just, realized that that's not the life I wanted to live anymore. And I was able to work on things to get myself healed from that stuff, from addiction.
But that was in prison.
In prison.
Yeah. So do you feel like you really needed to get to that point?
I think for myself, because I was pretty far into some really bad stuff. So it took me a while to pull my head out for sure.
Yeah. You were the first person in this professional space who talked to me about parenting. Mm-hmm. And you really captivated me because I had spent some time in Kentucky. They have the highest rate of kids with incarcerated parents. Also, I hope it's improved now. I've been away for a few years, but so many kids in group homes, so many kids in the foster care system. And I spent time in women's corrections there. And just to get up close, it's like you can know something intellectually, but then to imagine the experience for the mama who wants to be able to parent, right? And is basically feeling more and more and more traumatized, not being able to at all. And then you've got the next generation who desperately still needs connection with that parent. I think sometimes we have this idea that you did a bad thing, you lost your right to parent, right? Because you did that bad thing. And we're just creating this generational trauma in that practice. So tell me about your experience as a parent and then developing the parenting classes.
Okay, so for me, I was sentenced to the 40 years. They sent me as far away as they could from my home. I was about 400 miles away from home. Mm. Phone calls were $25 for 20 minutes at that time. Mm. There was no Securus or any of the stuff they have today, but there was no emails or JPays, so everything was done via mail with my kids mostly because we couldn't afford to pay $25.
Like letters, writing letters.
And so, so luckily they opened up a new prison over here on the west side, and I transferred to Stafford Creek, where I was able to get my first visit with my kids. And it kind of started, at that time when I got closer, I was able to actually start rebuilding some connection with them. And then...
Were they always open to it?
They were babies. They wanted their parents.
So they didn't really...
And they wanted their parent. I think at the end of the day, any child who has a parent in prison just wants to know that that parent loves them and is available for them and is doing everything they can to be in their life.
Yeah.
And so for me, I went to McNeil Island. I was put out on Main Line after I did some time in a hole because there was a riot that happened at Stafford Creek. Mm-hmm.
You need to say what those things are because our people don't know. Say what Main Line is, say what the hole is.
Okay, so the hole is IMU. It's Intensive Management Unit for where you go when you get infractions or fights or whatever you do.
Isolation?
Isolation, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're in a one-man cell locked behind a locked door. I was transferred there due to basically it was a race riot that happened at Stafford. I wasn't involved directly, but they took a lot of people off Main Line and shipped them. Main Line is the prison where everybody walks the same yard and stuff like that. I went to McNeil. I was in the hole for 10 days. They put me on Main Line at McNeil Island.
Tell me about being in the hole, because I've heard a lot of people talk about how sort of fundamentally traumatic it is to be isolated. Was that your experience, or did you just roll through it?
Well, I knew I was getting out.
Yeah.
So it was like, I wasn't going to be there like a long term months, or years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was grateful because they moved me literally a ferry away from my family.
Yeah.
I was from Tacoma, so I got, they'd catch a boat and still come over and see us.
Yeah.
So my thing was like, I'm good. I'm where I need to be, you know? So I went out to the mainline prison and started actively engaging in programming that I could. I had a 40-year sentence, so it was really hard to get involved in programming.
Did you believe that you were going to do the 40 years, or did you always believe that there was going to be a way that would be?
Well, I'll be honest, I took my plea bargain hoping I would get out on my early release date, which I got a third off because of nonviolent crimes.
Yeah.
Which would have been 2027.
Yeah.
Would have been my release date.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I didn't plan for getting out early or any of that stuff. I just knew what my sentence was. And I didn't really think about my sentence, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just went through the motions daily and lived like visit to visit. That's how I did my time. It was visit to visit.
With your kids?
With my kids, with my mom, with my family. And then they had a yard event, which was like the first one in our state where the Secretary of Corrections allowed us to have a barbecue on the yard with our kids. It was Day with Dad, it was called. It was the very first time they did it. They locked down the rest of the prison and let all the dads go out to the yard. They brought fire trucks out there and kites and bicycles.
Wow.
And, we had a baseball field and we got to run around with our kids and just play and
just normal
fun.
Day.
It was like, and it was the first time I was able to actually see my youngest son. Yeah. So it was the first time I got to touch him since he was a baby. So it was really like an emotional thing for me to be able to do that. And so I went back to my cell that day and I just made a decision that I was going to do everything I could to be in my children's life. And that's what I did. They brought in a long distance dads, which is like a pilot program. Mm-hmm. They asked me to be part of the class. I took the class and just started hearing about all the statistics about children of incarcerated parents and like what I could do as a parent to greatly reduce that the risk to my child of ending up in prison. Mm-hmm. And when I went to prison, I had 3 natural kids and 3 step kids that I was raising. And hearing that 7 out of 10 children of incarcerated parents end up in prison.
That's right. Yeah.
Was shocking to me. It's like I could be on the main line with my kids, and I made a decision I was going to do everything to not let that happen. Yeah. And so, I engaged in all kinds of programming with parents. I started teaching the classes. I was asked to be a mentor in the class. I taught that program for over 13 years. Yeah. But, I think one of the best things I did was, I saw my son was struggling in kindergarten, and I was just like, I want to do a parent-teacher conference. And I asked my superintendent if I could do that. And we sat down and wrote a program for the state of Washington, DOC, and they still use it today to do parent-teacher conferences for their kids.
That's amazing.
And so, we could read books to our kids and send them tapes and books. And the visiting was amazing. We continued to have those Day with Dad programs, and we did Christmas programs, and they just added to it all the time. So, that stuff for me was like life-saving.
So do you feel like in Washington State now, it's just understood that you want to keep parents connected to kids as much as possible? Or do you feel like there's still, what I had observed in Kentucky was that there was an idea that was just fundamentally still about 2 things: punishment for the parent, right? Like you need to suffer so you won't do this again. And then also we're protecting the kids. We don't want them to be exposed to this bad person. That was still, nobody was explicitly stating that, but by design, you could see that those 2 ideas were still sort of driving a lot of the restrictions.
It's sad to say in 2008 and 2009, when the major, economic crash hit, a lot of these programs we had went away. Yeah. And they've never really restored those programs.
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. So it was like a nice to have, but it wasn't.
To them, it's not a necessary thing. Yeah. And like, even still today in Washington, DOC, parenting classes are not available for every parent.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so before I got out, they started a program called Strengthen Families, which is a program where it's a special granted program from the feds. And they teach parenting classes. They do a program called Walk the Line, which is a program that military people use when they come back, kind of about us, our attitudes and our hidden issues and all the stuff. They do personality tests for folks, and we do some John Gottman emotion coach parenting stuff. But they brought that program in, and as soon as I heard about it, I was like, hey, I want to get in this class. They're like, well, you got too much time. Yeah. So I was like, well, I want to teach it. I don't want to be in it. I want to teach the program. So I wrote headquarters, and they were like, okay. So they let me teach the program, and I was in the very first class of that, and I taught that for 5 years before I came home. But those programs are only available for people with 2 years or less sentences. They don't allow very many parents to have, if you have a life sentence, you don't get no programming. Yeah. But you're still a parent.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would often advocate if we had an empty spot, I'm like, hey, I know this guy out here. He just had a kid, trailer baby, let him come in, and get some parenting classes. But it's really hard for people to even get involved in parenting classes. And then, so that also weighs on the parent-teacher conference program that they have, because without training, most parents are scared to do a parent-teacher conference. They don't know what to ask. Yeah. So it's like, it's all tied together. If we don't give people the right training, because a lot of us weren't good parents on the street.
Right.
So we all need skills to be able to navigate the systems, but we also need skills to navigate life for our kids.
Yeah, and then if it's, regardless of the perspective about the inmate, the impacts to the kids, we ought to all, should all be able to share in like, well, we don't want these kids to be sentenced to future incarceration, right? So,
Exactly.
it sounds like that program gave you the purpose.
It did.
To focus on something other than,
Well, it allowed me across every barrier that was in prison, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Racial barriers, like, prison is a highly racially segregated place. Prison is highly...
Is it still that way, do you think, largely?
Well, I think that, in the minimum institutions, the long-term minimum stuff, it's a little less like that. But, when people come in, that's the way things go. It's like you go with the people that look like you and you hang out with these folks. But, with the parenting stuff and all that, we were able to cross all those barriers.
Yeah.
Like, we had 300 people that graduated from my program at McNeil Island out of 900 people.
Wow.
So like we had this very active, positive, it reduced violence in the prisons because everyone wanted to be, you couldn't be getting infractions if you wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
We would have reunions every quarter, and it was all ran by volunteers. We didn't pay staff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Volunteers ran the programs.
Yeah. So how long was that program? And give us an idea of the topics, like what the focal areas were.
It was a 12-week program.
Okay.
And basically the first few weeks is really learning about, some of the risks we put our children in, learning about how we were parented. We really talk, it's very emotional. Like a lot of people drop out. We only had like a 60% graduation rate from the class. And we were.
Do you think, is that because it was painful?
Painful.
Yeah.
Painful, because then you start looking, you have to examine your own life.
Yeah.
And what was causing you to make decisions you make, and that, you were affecting your kids the same way. So,
yeah.
And they were told, hey, man, it was very strict, though. If you missed a class, you were out.
Yeah.
If you,
But was it like come back when you're ready?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And like we would talk to guys when the class was, outside of the class and dropped out, about it. Because it's really like in prison, you hide all your nerves. You don't allow people to see your emotions. Like you walk around very stoic. You don't smile. You just kind of go through the motions through life, and you don't talk about things that are important to you.
Yeah.
Because people use it against you, or you don't know who you're talking to.
What do you mean people use it against you?
Well, if they know you're being emotional, one, they can either prod you to do something, or, it's just a very...
Oh, like you're a target.
Exactly.
Like you're, okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still have life left. Maybe I'll wind up in prison. We don't know.
No.
Probably not.
Maybe if you play your cards right, you might. But yeah, for me, like it really was a life-changing event to be able to be a parent and be engaged with my kids. And, 5 of my kids went to college.
Is that right?
And so I had a daughter that went to prison. At the same time I was being released from DOC, my daughter was headed to Purdy, pregnant with my granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
So it was like all the stuff I got sent back to prison, and she got sent to prison, So it was pretty hard.
Painful,
yeah.
I'm sure.
And then she got out, and she's just kind of been on a railroad. Her own life's been on a kind of a roller coaster her whole life with addiction.
Yeah.
But she watched most of my stuff. She was the oldest.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
She's seen when the cops were looking for me, and I was wanted on Watched As Most Wanted and all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a friend who described being raised by a heroin addict, and found she was deceased with a needle in her arm when she was 17. He found her, and he specifically avoided hard drugs, like alcohol and stuff, but really had that awareness, that I've got a risk factor. Had a significant setback in his life, devastating turn of events, I think when he was 27, and went straight to heroin. And after, Eric and I were talking about that after, because Eric was like, it seems like you would do the opposite. And I said, no, we tend to do what our parent did. We do. And I always wonder about the psychology I think sometimes there's almost this intimacy, like whatever the pain was that my mother felt or whatever, I'm gonna go in that space. I have no idea, but I know that generational cycles are a thing,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And
for sure.
so, yeah. How's your granddaughter doing?
She's doing great.
She's doing good.
She currently lives with me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, she's 12 years old and
Yeah,
seems to be thriving.
yeah.
I mean, my daughter's currently, we're trying to get her into drug court right now.
Oh, yeah,
It'll be the first time she's ever had the opportunity to go to treatment
yeah,
and actually do the work
yeah,
that needs to get done.
yeah. You never went through drug court, did you?
No.
Yeah,
I never even spent a day in jail until 1999.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had been walking that line where,
yeah.
but I was white and I got drove home often. You know what I mean? I grew up in New Jersey where, you know what I mean? The cops would just drive us home when we were kids and they would harass the black kids usually.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you just like suddenly you're abstinent, you don't have drugs anymore and so you're sober? Or did you go through some sort of medical treatment or
I didn't
what?
go through anything. I just went to jail and
Didn't have drugs anymore.
Didn't have drugs anymore. And then sat in county for months waiting to go to prison. And I mean, nothing I ever wanted to do once I got there.
Yeah.
I wanted to always be, you know, in control of my life.
Yeah. And so those months in jail, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, I got to get out of here? I'm
thinking that I'm going to prison for the rest of my life and I probably ain't going to live much longer, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what to expect. I had never been to prison, so I was pretty much going by myself.
Yeah. Were you depressed?
No, not really depressed.
Resigned?
To be honest, I was just anxious to get on with the next phase of getting out of county jail and see what was going to happen when I got to prison. So.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get to Washington? I didn't know you were from Jersey.
Yeah, so when I was young, my dad was wanted in New Jersey and then for DWI stuff, and he moved out here. And my mom came out here and got a job at Boeing and stayed out here.
Okay. Are you close to her still?
Not really. I'm close to her, but not.
Yeah.
We haven't talked in a while because of some stuff that was going on, but
yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, so, all right. So a lot of, your resilience and resolve to just sort of say, look, that's not the way I want my life to be. And you just to reach inside internally and have the strength to just say, I'm making a change here. I mean, that is it. Not everybody can do that.
Well, I mean, there's also the factor in prison. You're like, there's drugs available if you want to get high. There's lots of drugs in prison. There's lots of gambling in prison. But
so you just made a choice.
But those are the two things that also lead you to the biggest issues, right? If you get in a drug debt or you're gambling debt or you get in this, and it usually leads to violence. So like I said, my goal in life was to stay engaged in my kid's life.
I understand this is so ignorant, but I don't know why so many drugs are in prison. Like, how are they getting it?
I can tell you why.
Yeah.
Because it's very lucrative, and even the COs like to make money.
Yep.
You have to say what a CO.
Correction officers and DOC staff and kitchen staff and people like that often bring in drugs.
They make a lot of money.
I just had a conversation with, one of the assistant secretaries of corrections about this exact thing. It's like, family members can't bring phones in. Mm-hmm. Family members can't bring in the amount of drugs that are in our prison. It's just not possible. Mm-hmm. And until they start searching everyone going into a prison, it's not going to stop.
See, I assumed we did that, actually.
No, staff do not. Staff hit a button.
Oh,
They hit a button on whether or not they're going to be searched.
Okay.
And, there's great staff and there's horrible staff. And, there's good visitors and bad visitors.
Yeah, tell me the solution to this. You and I think you're the one that first put the idea in my brain that we really should have body cams in jails and prisons.
100%.
What else do we need? I mean, is it like the ombuds? Is it that how do we make this system actually rehabilitative and accountable?
Well, I guess, I was just having this conversation again yesterday at Shelton. I was with a bunch of folks from Shelton inside the prison. So, we were talking about what it looks like for people to be successful, right? It ain't always making the prison pretty, right? You have to change prison culture. And culture change comes with staff. The staff, it's from the top down, right? Your Secretary of Corrections bleeds down into the line staff. And And like, we just have to change the entire culture about how we talk about people. Calling someone an offender is the most disrespectful thing you can do for someone. You know, people call them offenders. I'm like, I call them prisoners because we are in prison.
Yeah.
Like, let's stop taking away from the harm that's being caused by incarcerating people and calling it things that it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, an incarcerated individual. No, they are prisoners.
You know, that's how I talk. He's always correcting me. He was just making fun of me about substance use disorder versus addiction.
Yeah, you notice what he calls it. He doesn't say SUD. He says addiction because that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, if you're in the moment, I mean, I want people to understand that these are prisons where prisoners are held, and that doesn't change what you call them.
Yeah.
If you call them an offender or an incarcerated individual,
A justice-involved person.
a justice involved.
I was just listening to this, an interview that Andy Beshear became governor of Kentucky when I lived there. And I really admire him. And he recently was doing an interview about this, about language and how, you know, we're trying to be sensitive, but we're actually sanitizing and changing the reality. And he said, people aren't experiencing food insecurity. They're hungry. It was so, you know, and he gave a number of examples like that, but I thought it was really poignant.
You're speaking plain language.
Well, plain language, but also we need to feel that. Like hungry, that we understand, right?
Absolutely.
That's the human experience.
I mean, they just did a thing. I was on LinkedIn, and one of the former secretaries posted a thing about the Walla Walla Yard, which is probably the most notorious prison in our state. They're making it pretty, right? They're putting grass and they're putting benches and they're putting this stuff. I'm like, that's not going to help people get better to come home. It's just not. What we need is culture change and people to be treated like they're humans. We need people to get medical care. We need people to get good, healthy food. Stop feeding them correctional industry food. Stop, you know, have programs that are really changing people's lives.
I've started saying that ideally, you know, I think about these two avenues into recovery. One's voluntary, right? So that's when WELD's intervening with somebody sleeping on the street, and then the other is involuntary, that coercive, the carceral system, but that the structures should look the same. The difference is just the voluntariness. So whatever we would want ideally in any kind of rehabilitative environment, that's what prison looks like.
Well, I mean, the Department of Corrections says reentry starts upon entry to the DOC. Well, that's not true. Reentry doesn't start until you're in a place of safety. Till you can get healed from the stuff that caused you to go to prison. So until you get healed and you're in a place of safety, you cannot reenter the community in the right way.
What do you think about, you know, having spent so many years in this environment and in different environments, do you think that most of the folks that you were interacting with could be healed, like could be functional in community if availed of the right resources long enough?
I believe so. You know, a lot of these people, you know, I always say, like, the people in prison and jails were victims first, who never received services. You know, and I say that in every room I'm in. When prosecutors start talking about victims, I respect the fact that there's a lot of victims in our world that need services. But these people in prison were victims of our systems.
That's right.
A lot of them are foster care, juvenile, all different systems. And they never got services. And that's why they now commit crimes. Because they're broken.
Yeah, I think that a lot of smart, well-intentioned people know what you were talking about, you know, that there is victimization. And so then they interpreted the compassion to mean don't intervene, you know, and I think that's how we are right now, at least on the West Coast, that we wait until people have done a lot of crime or have suffered for a really long time before we're intervening.
Well, they allow them to dig a hole for themselves that's impossible to dig out. You know? And so it's just like, you know, it's like kids. They over-police them when they're kids, and then they become adults, they can just throw them away. Because it's nothing. Weapon enhancements, gun charges. Like these kids, when they're juveniles, are carrying guns. And then when they become an adult and they're carrying guns for the same reason because they're not safe. Most of them carry guns because they don't feel safe. And then when they get caught when they're adults, they can give them 50 years in prison and gun enhancements.
Yeah, well, I mean, couple of things there that are, you know, near and dear to my heart. One is that I think we missed the opportunity in two ways in the story that you just told. One of the ways is that we don't. There is such a sense that kids are being kids and their brains aren't developed, so we shouldn't hold them accountable and this, and that, and the other thing. First to that, I would say, you got to hold kids accountable. And the less developed the brain is, the more help they need in staying on course. So this idea that in King County, for example, before a juvenile is sentenced to any significant time for gun possession, they have to be convicted 5 times. Now, you and I both know that if you're convicted 5 times, you don't get arrested and convicted each time you carry a gun. It's 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 200 times. So when you say, it's a rare kid that's going to and then also get convicted. The idea that a kid is going to get arrested and convicted of unlawful possession of a firearm 5 times means that the vast majority of the kids that are carrying guns never get significant time, and they don't ever get the services and treatment and the help that is necessary, because the system is designed to be so forgiving to youth that it does not then avail them of the services that should be employed at such a point in time. So, do you have a perspective on that?
Well, I mean, I definitely believe that, like, when we have these kids where we got our hands on them, there's an opportunity to intervene in their life and, like, really look at what's causing this child to carry a gun. Like, I don't believe that kids carry a gun because they're bad people. Right. I believe kids carry guns because they are literally scared to walk the streets where they live. Yeah. And it's not from other kids. It's from the community that's going on around them. And some of it's for what's going on in their homes. But, like, at the end of the day, I mean, we can't have, we have an opportunity to intervene in certain situations, and we should intervene when necessary. And I don't know what the solution is, to be honest. I wish I could say, hey, this is what we need to do. But there has to be something done rather than just letting them go back and get guns again.
Well, again, the parenting, that's significant, 100. Right? Because I just feel like we know that it's a cycle. We know our predictably homeless populations, who those are. Yeah. Predictably incarcerated folks, we know who those people are, but we're not actually intervening. We don't like to spend money before the fact, right? We wait until the worst has happened and then spend some money.
Well, to follow up on the second point from your earlier comment, which is, and you actually mentioned it in the first response regarding kids, is, when we have the opportunity to intervene, to actually do so. And the other issue that's near and dear to my heart that we've talked about a number of times on the podcast is availing people of addiction treatment and help in jails. Because it sounds like you were an exception to this, that you weren't in and out of jail, in and out of jail, in and out of jail, and then went to prison, which most people, there's a lot of folks that just are recidivate and are high utilizers in the jail system. Yeah. And then there's just, they're booked and released and, PR'd and this and that. And they're never,
say what PR'd is.
Released on their personal recognizance. So, and this is a great segue into WELD and what WELD can do. But the problem is that if you take somebody who's an addict and you arrest them for the shoplift, turned strong arm because they resisted,
tried to run away.
They tried to run away. So now it becomes now
turns into a
robbery, right? So now you've got this thing, but they're booked and they're not going to get, they're just not even going to review charges for months and months. And so, they're put in jail. They're in there for two days, maybe, probably on average 2 days. They're in jail, and then they're booted out until some future process takes place. Meanwhile, they're still an addict. Meanwhile, they still have to feed their addiction. Meanwhile, they're going to go out and commit more crimes to support that addiction. And we had them. We had them right there. We had them in our hot little hands, and we could have. There's people that say yes, medically assisted treatment. No, you should have to go through whatever to sort of experience it, so you don't ever want to go through detox again. Blah blah blah. Let's not argue about that. what I want to say, though, is we have an opportunity to intervene. We have an opportunity to provide resources. We have an opportunity to maybe provide a structured environment where folks can get themselves better. And I worked narcotics a long time, talked to a lot of folks that were in active addiction, and it's not like they don't know they're addicts. They know they're addicts.
They're miserable.
They're miserable. They know that it's horrible.
Yeah.
They often in cogent moments, say this thing's going to kill me. This drug's going to kill me. They need to get out. So it's just like this. Like we have an opportunity to talk to folks and avail them of services and maybe give them an opportunity to make a different choice and chart a different course in their lives. And we just abrogate it. We just run them through the mill and kick them back out on the street where they're going to just go use again. It just drives me absolutely crazy.
Well, I think my biggest concern about all that is because people graduate in crimes.
Yep.
The more desperate, the more scared, the more worried, okay, this time I'm not getting out, or this time I'm going to prison for the first time. People get more and more desperate and graduate into greater and greater crimes.
Yeah.
Then they're felony eluding, and that's when they kill someone.
Yeah.
Or, all kinds of things happen.
Yeah.
Or they pull out a gun and they get killed.
Yeah.
It's just all these things happen when we have these people at a point where we could offer them services. The problem is we don't have enough services. First and foremost,
well,
there's not enough beds.
That is the problem.
There's not enough beds. There's not enough treatment centers. There's not enough services because we spend so much money on incarcerating people. Instead of having the services available, where we can do it for pennies on a dollar, they would incarcerate them. Or,
it should be one system. Like warehousing folks is really expensive.
Yeah.
So we're not saving money. It was interesting. I haven't shared this with you. I had recently a meeting because, we're trying to have a direct line, like let's not exit folks from jail at 1 a.m, to nothing. So that's what we're trying to solve for. And I was for the first time in a meeting with jail health people who are county people, county employees. And I don't even know if I realize that. I assume that they're jail employees. And then the city attorney office and the prosecutor's office and all these, it was primarily women, really smart women. And it was fascinating. These are people, boots on the ground, doing the work. Broad consensus. Everybody knows what we should be doing, why it's not working, the scarcity, again, just even the times that we're exiting people. I'm all hopped up about this. I learned for the first time that's just about the court calendar, that this is an administrative issue, that this is the time of day that we do things, which then results in somebody, again, being released at midnight with nothing.
Well, every county in the state has the same problem.
It's maddening.
Snohomish County, I just met with Snohomish County Council.
Yeah.
Everett City Council, and they're like, we have all these people that get kicked out in the streets, and where do they go? Right by the jail, and they start committing crimes right out the door.
Well, functionally, what do we think? Like, even if you have no intention, even if you feel like, no, I'm going to do good, where do you go functionally? Like, who is open at 1 a.m. to help you?
The problem I really think is that, people feel like, well, what can we do? Well, and so we have to do a better job of kind of helping folks to know there's a better way. Yeah. There's a better way. We can actually impact public safety for the better by actually helping folks when they're in the throes of addiction and committing crimes in support of that. When we have an opportunity to intervene and to have an intervention and to arrest them and take them out of that environment, we waste these opportunities day in and day out, and we're confused.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, it's about jails are black boxes.
Yeah.
They don't want no one in there. They don't want volunteers in there. They don't want people coming in to see people. Prisons are the same way. They limit as much access as possible. In order for people to really have the opportunity and receive the hand up that they need, it's got to be from people like me, to be honest with you.
Oh, we know that.
Access to the King County Jail, for me to talk to people and offer them services, would render more people going into services than anybody else talking to them. 100%.
Well, we got to shout out Congressman Adam Smith now. because he is a big fan of WELD, and we were just awarded 1.035 or something like that. It sort of is going to flow through MySpace in the city, but just flow through to have case management, actual reentry
housing. Well, we're going to
from
have
the jump.
We are going to have, according to the money and the way we wrote it, it's going to be provide 35 beds.
Yeah.
On demand.
Yeah.
For folks that are sentenced to the Department of Corrections, community supervision. That means they committed their first felony or low-level felonies, and they're going to be released to the streets, most of them who release homeless.
Yeah.
And what we found after doing a lot of research with DOC and meeting with corrections officers in the community is that these folks often show up the first time for their first meeting with their CCO, pass their drug screens, and ask for services.
Yeah.
And there's nothing available for them.
Yeah.
So after learning all this information and gathering some numbers, I went and sat down with Amy and was like, hey, we kind of have this cross-section of people, I think, that are like the same people that are leaving these jails are going into crisis and having to use the care team to receive services. And so we kind of started going back and forth, and Amy went to Washington, D.C. and got us some money to
You were with me. Eric was in that meeting. But you know what's so great about this story is it's the opposite of how government usually works, honestly. I mean, I've got so much appreciation for Adam, but also his staff. They were the ones that circled back because we had talked about this, a year prior about like, a lot of this is complex and nuanced and unpredictable. This part is simple, right? This part is simple. Folks need to release to something, and especially when they have every intention of changing their lives, can we just on demand make sure that happens? Well, his staff circled back and said, hey, can you pull something together? You WELD folks are amazing. So we did. It was very brief. And normally it's like, they said, Amy, you got to have letters of support. And I'm like, how many? I was like in the middle of a 15-hour day. They're like, can you at least get, I don't know if it was one or two, but I remember I actually reached out to our King County prosecutor and I was like, hey, I need a letter real quick for a thing, and we've all talked about this. This is where there's already consensus, but I probably spent 32 minutes of my time in some, right? And again, you guys didn't have to do some 400-page proposal, and he made it happen, right? And it will work. I know that it will, and we'll prove that it works. But generally, it's so many hours and so many, so much red tape. It's so
hard to get people to change course. So he should be praised for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like for on the other side, the Department of Corrections needs to be paying attention too, right?
Yeah.
Because what we're about to do is we're about to greatly reduce violations in King County.
Right.
People who release homeless never show up for the next appointment because they often fall back into addiction.
Yeah.
And then they go abscond from DOC.
Yeah.
And then they got to put out warrants and go catch them. And then they take them to Score Jail where they're housed for 10 days. It costs them $200 a day.
Yeah.
So the Department of Corrections just reported that they're going to now raise their violations back to 30 days.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Tim Lang told me, I met with him when I was at the Capitol, and he said that they currently not have one bed available for violations in King County. They were housing over 90 people a day.
Wow.
And 40 people a month get released from King County Jail in this exact situation that we're talking about on DOC. So we are going to show them what we can do by reducing violations. And the biggest thing is we're going to stop future harm.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to change people's lives because these people have been in the county for 30, 60, 90 days waiting to take these plea bargains for their first felony. So we have an opportunity.
Man, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
So tell us in your words, I mean, we've talked to others, but why do you think WELD is so successful? Like statistically, it's almost the opposite of what commonly happens when you're released from jail or prison. What is the X factor? What's the formula?
I think it's the way we serve our people that come to us. A lot of the people at our organization are lived experience.
Yeah.
We walk hand in hand with people. We don't baby them along. Like we hold them accountable in our housing. We hold them accountable in our programs, but we also understand where they're coming from and have compassion for them. Like, I can talk different to any person coming out of prison than anybody else can because they know I come with integrity and I come with, they know. Yeah. Like, that's where I was. So it's just a whole different experience. I think it's the way our org carries itself with integrity. I mean, from our leadership, from Patrick on down, we make sure that when we're in community, we're always living what we say.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of organizations that aren't doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if there is, what else is on your wish list this year, like as far as policy goes or investment goes?
Well, on a very personal note, I hope that the Senate and the House in Washington do not pass the tort reform bill that's currently going through.
Okay.
Because it's going to stop victims of our systems from ever being able to file lawsuits. All these juveniles that were harmed and all the money they've been paying out in lawsuits due to systems failures, of course, due to abuse and neglect and child molestation that happened inside these systems. This bill is going to require every case to go to arbitration. So there won't be a lot of public sight about it. And it's also the victim has to pay for the arbitration. Their lawyer can't even pay for it. So it's going to stop.
So it's not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to limit victims ever holding anybody accountable for their harm. Yeah. And it's shameful that our legislators even thinking about doing something like that.
Yeah. What do you think about, what is the role of corrections unions and things like that? And
well, when you have 9,000 employees and you have 14,000 prisoners, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems very, it's a very overbloated system. Yeah. And DOC is not using the people that are available to them. I volunteered 100 times to go in there and teach parenting classes, but they don't want volunteers. They want to have a hourly employee working in these classrooms and doing stuff.
But is that a labor thing? Is that that's our body of work? We do that?
I mean, I think that's what it is, to be honest with you. They want to grow their union. I mean, the unions are powerful forces here. And, I just want to say, there's some amazing people that work for the Department of Corrections, but there's also bad actors just like everywhere else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying earlier that that in your parenting program in prison that there was staff that volunteered to work it because...
no, they were volunteers. They were from our community. They would come in.
No paid staff.
Just no pay. Yeah. They were non-paid. They would bring in the materials. They would come in for our quarterlies and our weekly meetings and our quarterly events that we'd have with everybody for reunions. And it was...
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Pure Washington also. I didn't realize until maybe 6 months ago that it's very hard to get peers in corrections.
Well, they're growing their own now, just so you know. They are, Shelton, I was just there, and they have a couple classes of people that just graduated from the peer counseling from the health department. And they're also... allowing them to earn their 1,000 hours of training. Yeah. They've completed their 80 hours of training. Now they're getting ready to do their 1,000 hours
and
of
that's
work.
For the peer certification.
They have, but for the actual...
peer counselor.
Yeah. And so they're currently working on building out an academy at Shelton for peer counseling. So that's cool. And it's, there was a lifer sitting at the table. He's one of the leaders of the program.
That's great.
So, I mean, I think it's really, and we just started our peer counseling internship at WELD too. We hired our first intern.
That's
a peer counselor. So we're going to start doing trainings within WELD for peer counseling, and because we know it's the best impact thing we could do is having people like us walk with people. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that we hear thematically. It's uniform, the consensus that it is peers that help people to break the cycle. It's not... Yeah, it's not going to be me. Well, I'm going to go try to find the money for the peers to do.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too, right? I mean, it's I know we all know what it is and what we have to do. It's being able to fund it. Yeah. Because to be honest, half the time we're working at WELD, we're also in the back of our head thinking, oh my God, if we don't get this grant, we're done. Yeah. You know what I mean? And thankfully we've had some amazing support and folks like you that see what we do and support us to even grow a little further. Yeah. And I'm hoping this program that we're getting funded right now, we'll be able to take it to every county.
Yeah.
I mean, because at the end of the day, it's going to be so impactful, they're not going to be able to resist doing it.
Yeah. You know, when we got married, actually, it may have been even before or right after, we were revising our wills, you know, our estate plans. And it was, and I'm, you know, very into philanthropy and estate plans and, you know, charitable remainder trusts and things. But I was asking Eric, I was like, you know, who would you want named? It's like you can settle out the estate, but even having like donations made to a nonprofit instead of sending flowers is a really useful thing to do. And WELD was the first nonprofit he named. You know, I think there were 2 or 3 that you liked.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't want you to off me now.
Stay on your best behavior.
Well, on a side note, you know, that WELD is very interested in, you know, Eric as a, you know, possibly being a board member.
Yeah, we should put him on the spot right now.
I will say this: WELD is changing lives, and it's allowing people to get, you know, the structure and support they need to chart a new course and to be, you know, better parents for their kids and better community members for society and you know, just all around better folks. And so, I mean, what better thing to contribute to? So you guys are changing lives, without question. And so, you know, after 38 years in law enforcement, you know, when I got on, I thought that, you know, you just arrest folks when they commit crimes and they'll think better of it next time and they won't commit crimes anymore. And I mean, like literally, it wasn't, I mean, Amy sometimes puts a whole punishment spin on it and things like that. But I think fundamentally what I think people thought, and I know what I thought was, well, God, I'm scared to death of getting arrested, you know, when I was a kid or whatever. So I wouldn't have done anything that, you know, I thought would have put me at risk at that. But, you know, there are folks that are in circumstances, and certainly folks in crisis, and certainly folks in addiction. They don't have that opportunity to think like that. That's the driving forces are greater than the will to just choose not to do it. So, you know, after a number of years in law enforcement, you realize that, well, I keep arresting Joe. I've arrested Joe like 10 times, and
maybe this isn't working.
It doesn't seem to be working. So, you know, then you have to kind of think like, okay, maybe, you know, we need other systems, we need other tools, we need other support mechanisms to allow Joe to change course. And frankly, you know, it's only been the last few years where. I suppose that's not true. There was times when I was running the narcotics section where we would see folks that, you know, we used to deal with and now have had a change in their life, and they're, you know, so we knew it was possible, but I think it's over the last few years where I've really been more exposed to programs like WELD and other programs. I give a list, but it's not helpful at the moment. And folks like yourself who are living great lives, contributing to the lives of others around them and breaking cycles so that overall, you know, community is better, public safety is improved, you know, all of the good things that come from helping folks get on the right course. And so I'm a big fan.
I think the most important idea, Jim, is that you had a 40-year sentence, right? And for a lot of people who are listening to this, they think, oh, that's a scary guy. That's a bad guy. You know, 40 years is a long time. And what I find is we're going to chat more. That's really high.
Well,
that's really
I just want to say 2 years after I was sentenced, the Washington State Legislature changed the drug laws.
Yeah.
Prior to 2002, it was 20 years for manufacturing, and it was 20-year minimums for manufacturing, basically, and then they changed it to 10. But they did not make it retroactive.
Yeah.
So I sat in prison and floundered.
Yeah.
After release, I was able to work with a few Republican senators and got a bill drafted to retroactively apply the drug sentencing laws, and there was 6 people left in prison who were able to get released
Yeah.
that were serving archaic drug sentences like myself.
Yeah.
And had it not been for the governor's bravery to let me out, I would still be there. So
Yeah. I just feel like you are specifically gifted and talented, but most people are, in different ways, right?
There are so many people in prison that deserve an opportunity. I mean, I just had a friend of mine, Andrew Lee. He was 18 years old at a party on New Year's Eve and got in an altercation with a 43-year-old man who just got out of prison. And the guy hit him in the head with an AK-47. And Andrew pulled out a pistol and shot him. 18 years old. He jumped out the window of the house to get away. All the adults in the house chased him down the street. But when they went to court, they all said they were scared. And he got assaults for everyone in the house. They gave him 6 gun enhancements, over a 50-year sentence. He just went up for clemency, and Bob Ferguson denied him, even though he was granted by a 5-0 vote from the clemency board. And he would be out today if he was 38 days younger because he would have qualified for juvenile parole.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane.
Sigh.
And he was my cellie for a very long time.
Is
like,
that
it's
right?
very we were in dog programs together, and he did everything I did.
Yeah.
And he's a lot younger than me, so I watched him grow up in prison and literally change his life.
Yeah, I just want to see a day, and it's probably not going to happen in my lifetime, but when we exit people, it should correlate with their change, right? We know so much now about the brain and how people change and what it looks like and who is likely to be successful when they exit, and that should determine release.
Now, and while that's great, I mean, obviously providing them the opportunity
to rehabilitate
to where they can get to that point. But, it's hard to implement a program like that where you try to prognosticate a person's likelihood of recidivism.
I think that judges specifically should have way more discretion.
Yeah.
Right now, we paint them into a box with the SRA and say, here, you have a 50-month different sentence you can give them. Either you give them 100 months or 150 months.
Yeah.
It's up, but that's all their discretion. And there's not a chance for them to individualize a sentence for an individual. And if that's not all, judges should have a chance to review a person 15 years later and say, okay.
Oh, for gosh sakes, absolutely. Well, I mean, people change.
Yeah,
right?
But it really starts on the front end, and we were talking about this yesterday in Shelton too, is there's no drug treatment.
Yeah.
I went to prison as a drug addict with a gambling addiction, and here's what I was told. I see my first counselor, they classified me, they said, okay, we'll see you in 2026. Have a good life, and go fend for yourself basically until then, because there's no treatment available, there's no nothing until you're 2 years to the gate.
Yeah.
That's 2 years to release, by the way.
Good. See, you're translating.
But yeah, I mean, for me, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And so we have to.
Well, we're going to keep after it. Again, it's fun to talk even about the new WELD pilot in jail, because I remember, that's something that's happening, that we did that started with a dialogue.
Yeah, it was literally, I called you, I'm like, hey, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
I chased her down in Seattle, we had a meeting, and that's how it all started. And, it's really about people in community and doing this work, just raising the awareness of what can happen. Then we had a meeting with Lisa Mannion, and we had all these meetings. So it was just showing that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
And then a year from now, we'll circle back and tell them how successful the program was.
Yeah, and we'll be fighting the next fight then. Thank you so much.
We'll be raising money to refund the program.
We will, and it'll be bigger. Yeah.
But I'm confident it will show
absolutely
the rewards.
Myself and another guy from WELD, Ron, who runs our housing, him and I are going to collab on this program.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to the return on that investment. It's going to be good.
You guys can come check it out.
Yeah.
And also, you guys should come to one. Have you been to our WELD month graduation yet?
No.
Let's do it.
We've got to.
WELD month graduation is where we have 15 people that go through 30 days of programming. We pay them the 10 classes. They do digital literacy, financial literacy, resume writing, interview processing, health and wellness. They talk about everything in there, and it really changes people's lives. It gives them a chance when they come home to slow down and like not have to worry about going to work because we give them a stipend for attending.
Yeah.
We give them a laptop.
It's like a space between where you can.
Right, where they can also build a little community and a little safety and know that everybody's going through it. Like everybody's struggling with computers. Everybody's struggling with their phone.
Eric, you're struggling.
Yeah,
You can,
and I haven't been incarcerated.
Can he audit that part of the
I need to attend.
WELD program?
I'll attend that class as well. That'll be one of my observations. I'm just here to watch.
You definitely should come to that, and we want to connect you with our board and stuff like that too, to see if you're interested in that too. So
fantastic.
We, like I said, we are a public safety tool, and we want to be recognized as that. We're not just reentry, right? Yeah. And when I speak to the legislators and everyone, I'm like, we are a tool that you guys can use to help reduce crime in our community.
Well, and Jim, thank you for what you do, and thank you for coming here and sharing it with us and our viewers. I think everybody's going to love to hear what's going on. And your perspective is unique to your life's experience and very, very interesting. So thank you very much.
We had nothing to debate. We didn't really.
I know this was a very congenial.
Bombardment.
Well, I think when people see, it's hard to argue with the facts when you see what's going on.
It's hard to argue with the facts. Exactly. That'll be the title for this one.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. And now you've been bombarded. Kind of light, Barden light.
The Bombarded Podcast is a Barden Squared production. Executive producers are Eric Barden and Amy Barden, and video and audio production of the Bombarded Podcast is by Thread Theory Creative.